I think we're going into a multipolar world where every country inside those blocks is going to experiment and is already experimenting with as many different types of financial instruments as possible. So you see countries working hard on CBDCs, but alongside that, they're also experimenting with stablecoins. They're also experimenting with KYC Bitcoin. Like you have many countries that are doing all three, right? So they're not just doing CBDCs. Like the EU zone is a good example. They're doing CBDCs and they're doing stablecoins. United States is doing stablecoins and KYC Bitcoin. Thailand is doing KYC Bitcoin, stablecoins, and CBDCs. Like you have countries that are playing around, and I'm showing that just like chefs, when they have a smorgasbord or a buffet, and they're putting all those dishes out there until they find the chef's favorite, all countries are going to be like that, to just experiment with as many dishes as possible until they land on what they like most or what works for them in their countries most. And the factors that will be how much the local society or the local population is resisting what they're doing, or how smooth it's going to be for them to introduce a monetary asset or a monetary tool that is going to rob people of their freedoms and their rights. So depending on the level of resistance or acceptance, this is how you're going to tell what kind of technology is going to be implemented in each one of those places.
Hello, this is the Bitcoin Libertarian. Our guest today is Efrat Fenigson, an independent journalist, podcast host of You Are the Voice, and a passionate advocate for Bitcoin and financial sovereignty. With a background in marketing and a family history rooted in resilience against tyranny, Efrat has become a leading voice warning about the risk of the CBDCs while championing decentralized alternatives like Bitcoin. Her latest speeches, including her keynote at BTC Prague, and of course at La BitConf in Buenos Aires, titled "The Musical Chairs of the Monetary Order," are her data pack update at Baltic Honey Basher on CBDCs, rollouts, a stablecoin legislation have shed light on the shifting global financial landscape. And besides that, we share the same birthday. Today, we will explore these insights, the threats of programmable money, and how individuals can protect their freedom in an increasingly digitalized world. Efrat, welcome.
Thank you so much. Wow, what a beautiful opening.
Thank you very much. And for
it's
me,
so
it's
cool we share the same birthday.
It's so funny because I think that one day I entered to your Twitter and I saw born 7 March and say, oh, it's the same birthday. So
who's older? Are you older or me?
I think you told it's not good to ask the birthday of a woman, a lady, but you told me that you were born in 1980. I was born in 1981, so you are a year older.
I mean, okay,
but you look younger, so no problem.
Thank you.
So the first question that I do, and to close it, the funny thing is that 1 month previous to meeting you at Lugano, I met a girl in a boat trip here in Hong Kong, and her birthday was also 7th of March 7th.
No way.
So, but from 1982. So,
and it was a boating trip. Did you lose?
It's a boating trip. I lost that day. I lost all the keys. So, but anyways, it is what it is. So, Efrat, the first question, and I do to everyone is, how were you orange pilled?
How was I orange pilled? I was marching in the streets of Israel protesting against the government because of the COVID policies. And I was very vocal, so people knew me and they followed me and saw me. And one of those people that followed me was the number one Bitcoiner in Israel at the time. He's a friend of mine today. His name is Ben Samocha. He was on my podcast, actually. You can check out the episode with him because he's a brilliant economist and analyst of geopolitics and obviously a Bitcoiner. He has a school for like a college where he teaches Bitcoin and crypto professions. And he has a website called Crypto Jungle, which is the biggest media website in Hebrew in Israel. And so he saw me and he came over and said, you get everything about the government corruption and the state, taking advantage of us and violating our human rights and all that. you should be a Bitcoiner. How come you're not in Bitcoin? And I told him, because no one is able to teach me. I've been asking people before he came. I've been asking if people can teach me, and no one knew to answer properly. So when he came, I told him, "Great, can you teach me?" And he said yes. So we sat together. He answered my questions, and he helped me do my first transaction. Then he got me the book, the Bitcoin Standard, and since then I was on my own journey, just like, very deep into the rabbit hole, and I never stopped since. And really, the first reason I came was to hedge what's mine, because I was, after COVID and everything, I was afraid that the government's next gonna come for my property rights, which they still may do. It's very probable that they may do that, not just in Israel, all over the West, but in Israel too. Um, so I came for the hedge and I stayed for the freedom. It was just such a revelation for me to understand that this tool is a tool of sovereignty and freedom. I actually did not know that the government cannot take it, or interfere if I hold it in self custody. So that was a real revelation for me. Yeah, and that was in the around the end of 21, beginning of 22. So I'm not in Bitcoin for a long time, but I
but
was
but
so
you
ready for it. I was so ready.
but but you became a super speaking voice. I saw the other day you were with Nayib Bukele in El Salvador.
Oh
Uh,
my God. Yeah, I was invited to dinner with him. I couldn't believe it. Yeah, everything is happening very fast because, to be honest, I'm not coming to this game. I call everything in life game, okay? If people that know me, my followers already know that for me, this is a one big game. Like, life is a game, and we play in levels and we level up all the time. And I didn't come to this chapter from zero. I came with all my skills and experience from the previous chapter, and I've been doing tech and marketing for the past 20 plus years. So, and and communications, and since I'm well versed in communications and marketing, I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to achieve. I started the podcast. I mean, I didn't know that the podcast is going to turn into mostly a Bitcoin podcast. And it's still not, because it's quite wide. I cover a lot of topics, but Bitcoin obviously is being discussed in most episodes, and I love it. I love it. And so I didn't know that, but I did know that I have to use my skills in order to continue spreading the messages of freedom and sovereignty. And when you have such a great tool like Bitcoin, it just fits in so well. Things just
yes,
happen.
this is something that I talk to everyone, because most of the people think I cannot do anything to Bitcoin because I'm not a developer, and you don't have to be a developer. Every
Oh no.
one of us can do something for the Bitcoin revolution. If you are a developer, you can contribute creating tool. If you are a communicator, an expert in marketing, you can
Yeah.
have a podcast, post on X, because I agree what you said. You came for the edge and you stay for the freedom. And I think that is the journey of every maxi, every Bitcoin maxi. We all came to Bitcoin to make money or to have some.
Edge is to protect. It's just to keep what's ours. We don't want anyone to touch it.
But when you start going deep into the rabbit hole and you discover how money is corrupted, how governments are corrupted, you say Bitcoin is the only exit to
Yeah.
all these problems, right?
Well, it's not the only one, but it's a key one. I think it's a combination of Bitcoin. It's a here's the guiding principle I go by. You need to put in the lens of decentralize everything in your life. So if you work from the principle of decentralization and you try to dismantle sources of power in your life and sources of dependency, where you have too much dependency on something, you start regaining back and reclaiming back your power and becoming more sovereign in every area. So it can be health, it can be relationships, it can be money, career, anything that you are too dependent on someone or something or some system, or any place that holds too much power over you. you need to start looking at your life, every vector of your life, from that lens. And when you start analyzing life from that lens, you identify the weak points where you have too much dependency and where you centralize too much power, or your power is not with you and it's with someone else, centralized it in other hands. And then you need to start taking actions to dismantle those sources of power, to break it up. And it doesn't mean that, just like we know in life, energy is not disappearing, it's just transmuting somewhere else. So you break a source of power, too much power, and you just shift the energy to another place, another area of your life, or you shift it back to you, depending on what area of your life it is. So that's how I look at life. And that's why I think Bitcoin is not the only tool, but it is a key tool in liberating ourselves. Our health needs to be in check, and our mental and psychological or even spiritual health needs to be in check as well. I believe that during these crazy years that we are now going through, by the end of the decade, we are going to be confronted with many crises and breakdowns and emergencies and whatever. And we have to be prepared for that. So it's not enough to just have Bitcoin. You also want to have your mental resilience, and you want to have maybe a plan B or other places you can go to. You may want to have a second citizenship or a residency. You may want to have other assets. I don't know. So you want to look at every area of your life, and Bitcoin is a key, because if you don't have Bitcoin and you have all the rest, you can get stuck in many places along the way. Once you have Bitcoin, it makes everything so much more smooth. And
Yes, yes, it's
past 2 years I've been traveling around, I've been nomading, and it's not easy to just hop from one place to another. There are many challenges around that along the way. But when you have Bitcoin, it gets easier. You simply feel how you can be like you have your center everywhere you go, because it's with you. Your Bitcoin is with you wherever you go, right? So that's already one less worry. You don't need to worry about the financial access. You have it. You have
yes.
access.
Plus, one of the things I want to point that you discovered Bitcoin in a protest against the
Yeah.
COVID the policies. One of the things that I discovered in this journey on being a Bitcoin, having the podcast and interviewing Bitcoiners, is that I interviewed Bitcoiners from all the nationalities, all the different backgrounds, people from Europe, Asia, Latin America, and we all share the same at the end, we all share the same values. Because, for example, I was against the COVID from day one when they started. And when you travel and you have Bitcoin and you're in the community, I think that you can meet all the people from the Bitcoin community and make things easier. What do you think about that?
Oh, absolutely. I think every place I got to, every place I arrived to, that I met the local Bitcoin community, it's like 50% of the social worries are off the table, because you already feel at home. Like you have a common language, people that on a very high probability are in the same mindset as you are in terms of libertarian values and appreciation for sovereignty and responsibility, etc. So you really don't need to start from zero. You feel very quickly at home. For example, I was in Lugano, right, in Switzerland, and I met the local community there, led by Giacomo and Mir at Plan B Network. Fantastic community. And then I met everyone else there, Sbam and Matteo and Mattia. There are so many great people there. You get to know them in minutes, and you just make friends very quickly. And I stayed there for 3 weeks, and I came a second time after, and I will come again because, they became in a very short time like really good friends of mine. And similarly in El Salvador, every time I go back there, this has been the third time I was there in the last year. There are already people I know that live there that are great. And, when I go to Austin, I have friends. And when I go to New York, there are some friends like, Madeira, you name it, like all these places, even Thailand. Australia, everywhere I visited, I met amazing Bitcoiners. And of course, Buenos Aires, when I was there, it was so much fun. And I got contacted by a friend on Nostr that saw that I'm in Buenos Aires just when I arrived there. And I don't know many people in Buenos Aires. It's like the other side of the world for me. I've never been to Argentina before. And he's like, I saw you're here. Do you want to come to a polo match with me and my sister? We're going. And they came to pick me up and we went for a polo match and, and we had dinner and they were so beautiful. And, we became friends and it's that easy. It's just amazing. If we didn't have Nostr and we didn't have Bitcoin, it wouldn't be possible.
What now that you mentioned Nostr, how does Nostr play a key role on freedom as well? Because as journalists, you are involved and marketing. You're involved in the media, in the platforms, but sometimes the platforms have their own rules and get you kicked out. How does Nostr play a good role in freedom of speech?
So that's a great question because 3 months ago, when I was traveling in Bali, I got a message that I am banned from Telegram. So Telegram closed my account one day, and they didn't tell me why. And I had two channels that I was managing there, two communities, one with 6,000 people and one with 2,000 people, one in Hebrew and one in English. And they closed my account. So the channels are still there, but I was the admin and no one can access them. So I lost my access like within a second to 8,000 people that were following me on a daily basis, that were getting my content. Now, some of them may be on Twitter and on YouTube and on other channels, but some of them may have been only on Telegram. So I lost those followers in a way. And there is no one to talk to in Telegram. So you talk to an AI bot again and again and again, and no one answers you. You can yell to the skies until tomorrow, but no one's going to answer you. I've been trolling Pavel Durov on X, nothing, no answer. So I don't know why I'm banned, but they did not reinstate me. And I didn't fight too much because, I tried to get it back, but I can't. And so quite quickly, I was like, okay, just like I do with banks, for example, if they come up with all their KYC bullshit, I go, okay, F you, I have Bitcoin. I don't need you. So same with Telegram. It's like, F you, I don't need you. I'm not gonna try and create another community on Telegram. And I worked hard for this. For 3 years, I've been building this. No, I'm gonna put all my energy into Nostr because I'm already there. And yes, Nostr has a small user base at the moment relatively to all the other social media platforms. It's not a platform, it's a protocol. We know that. But on the apps, you don't have a lot of active users. I have close to 5,000 followers at the moment. Small number of them are active. And yes, it's growing, but it's growing very slowly relatively to my 100K on Twitter, for example, or the tens of thousands on other platforms. It's small, but it's a very high quality, high signal kind of audience, which I want to have more of. So I consciously put more time into Nostr now than I would have before because I want to build my audience amongst this community. I believe I can find a lot of like-minded people that can resonate with my content and my work on Nostr. And if I ever get banned from one application on Nostr, I can just take my social graph, my private key and public key, and go to another app. And so I never really lose it. I can't really be censored. Even if some of my content will be erased from some relays, which is possible, like it's a risk, then my voice cannot be silenced because I can take my private key and go to another app, and there's always going to be another app. So I have high conviction and high hopes for Nostr. I believe that because today it is the only protocol that allows for that kind of mechanism with a social graph and uncensorable voices, it will have a very promising future. I know it already exists for several years and it still haven't, peaked. But will it happen? I hope so. I believe so. I'm gonna continue advocating for it because, if we want to really decentralize everything, as I said, health, money, and information and content, then yeah, we need to advocate for more decentralized protocols. And Nostr is one of them. So I think it's important to learn it and to teach it.
Yes, I think that Nostr now is like Bitcoin in 2013,
Right.
2014.
Exactly. And you
So
see that there are so many developers working on it. And when there are so many projects and developers working on something, something needs to happen, right? It's like so many are being drawn to that protocol. So that's super fascinating. And, my friends, Max and Jeff, for example, Max Hillebrand and Jeff G, working on White Noise, which is a, a encrypted messaging app over Nostr, is something new. And it's basically taking signal that we know that is encrypted and doing it decentralized. So if they manage to succeed, if that works out, that startup, amazing. I'm gonna be right behind them to root for them. And we need more of these kind of tools because it's going to be ever more difficult for us to continue communicating freely on the open internet with a trajectory of the censorship legislation that is happening all around the world.
excellent. So let's move to the topic that I wanted to talk, because I was not able to listen the whole speech at La VidConf because I was super busy going from one place to the other. So I want you to talk about your speech, the musical chairs of the monetary order. Of course,
All
not
right.
all the speech, but give me the key notes or the key content of that speech that I know that speaks about the CBDCs and the problem that we are having with that.
Yes, CBDC is one of the topics in this speech, and I definitely will not give you all of it, but in general, I will try to give you the underlying trajectory that I am showing in this presentation. And throughout the presentation, there are a lot of proof points that people can go through and see the receipts for what I'm saying. So it's not just my opinions. I'm actually showing a lot of videos and a lot of articles to support what I'm showing. So basically, what I am showing is that from the beginning of the 2020s, with the advent of COVID, a lot of world leaders have started speaking about changing the monetary order. At first, when people like me and many others were saying that there is a new world order coming into play and the world order is going to change, people were calling us conspiracy theorists. But with time, we started seeing that, in fact, there is a new order that is being established, that is being built, right? And now in 2025, almost 2026, people that don't know that are fools. It's like everyone knows that things are changing, and by the end of this decade, the level playing field is going to look completely different. And so I start my presentation by showing that back in 2022, Dr. Pippa Malmgren is already saying that the new world order is relying on on the financial order. That the financial order is the most important thing in the world order, and that the financial order is changing, and that all countries are going to change their money from fiat to digital money. Now, she doesn't use the word CBDCs. She actually uses blockchain and crypto. And she says that people think that when you say blockchain or crypto, that it is private, but that's not what she means. She's actually referring to CBDCs, that every nation is going to implement that type of digital money. And I think what is very interesting in her speech that was given in Dubai in the One World Government Conference is that she's actually very correct when she doesn't mention CBDCs only. Because as you can see today, the different countries in the different blocks, and when I say blocks in my presentation, I mean the US and all the countries that follow the US, the EU zone, the BRICS nations, um, and there are different changes in different countries, but these are the main blocks, and the Gulf countries, right? These are like the main blocks in the world, and I think we're going into a multipolar world where every country inside those blocks is going to experiment and is already experimenting with as many different types of financial instruments as possible. So you see countries working hard on CBDCs, but alongside that, they're also experimenting with stablecoins. They're also experimenting with KYC Bitcoin. Like you have many countries that are doing all three, right? So they're not just doing CBDCs. Like the EU zone is a good example. They're doing CBDCs and they're doing stablecoins. United States is doing stablecoins and KYC Bitcoin. Thailand is doing KYC Bitcoin, stablecoins, and CBDCs. Like you have countries that are playing around, and I'm showing that just like chefs, when they have a smorgasbord or a buffet, and they're putting all those dishes out there until they find the chef's favorite. All countries are going to be like that, to just experiment with as many dishes as possible until they land on what they like most or what works for them in their countries most. And the factors that will influence that will be how much the local society or the local population is resisting what they're doing, or how smooth it's going to be for them to introduce a monetary asset or a monetary tool that is going to rob people of their freedoms and their rights. So depending on the level of resistance or acceptance, this is how you're going to tell what kind of technology is going to be implemented in each one of those places. And the fact that and then I go on to dive deeper into the different tools. So CBDCs and how they are being rolled out and who are the leaders in CBDCs around the world. And you see China as one. The EU is the second, that is really mimicking China and signaling to the world that China is the blueprint. Other countries are waiting for the EU zone to give the signal for the digital euro so that they can implement that in their countries. For example, India, for example, Israel, where I come from, they said yesterday that by 2026, end of 26, they're going to give the decision whether they're going to launch the digital shekel or not. And of course they will. And they're waiting for the EU. They've been saying that for a long time. And then you have countries doing pilots and experiments with stablecoins. Obviously, the US is the leader in that trajectory. And I'm talking in my presentation about the Genius Act that is creating the regulatory framework for stablecoins to operate within the United States and outside of the United States. And again, if we were called conspiracy theorists in the future in the past for saying that stable coins are going, or any type of cryptocurrency is going to serve the state in order to continue to globalize inflation and globalize the dollar, then people would say that we're crazy. But now we see that it's true. Like that's what's happening, and the administration of Trump are saying that out loud, that they are going to use stable coins in order to buy the debt, buy the treasury bonds of the United States, and continue globalizing the dollar around the world, which is a positive and a negative. And I give my analysis about that in my presentation. So the positive is obviously that stable coins build rails for Bitcoin, and we know that. And stablecoins are indeed fiat, tokenized fiat, pegged 1-to-1, but they are still, and they can still be running on the Bitcoin blockchain, for example, like Tether, or and then another positive, clear positive, is they can really help people in hyperinflated economies, which, I've seen in Argentina, I've seen in Venezuela and other countries where people are actually using stable coins as the most stable fiat that they can put their hands on. So there are positives and there are negatives, because the fact that the US can go directly to consumers around the world and kind of have a direct link and control over other people in other countries without going through their governments or their central banks is also a warning for sovereignty. So it's like the US is now proliferating its debt everywhere, but not even through banks and through government, but directly to the citizens of the world. So it's a game changer in that aspect. So it's a nuanced topic, stablecoins, and I show that different countries are experimenting with that. And then I talk about Bitcoin, showing how different countries around the world are experimenting with Bitcoin as well. Some are experimenting with KYC Bitcoin, like making certain towns or areas or islands into like Bitcoin is accepted here kind of places, like Thailand is doing that. Um, Pakistan started doing that. A lot of countries are starting to be friendlier to Bitcoin, but some of them are doing that in a very KYC way. So you either reach Bitcoin through the institutionalized manner, whether it's an ETF or a KYC exchange or broker, or this is illegal in our country. So it's very like black and white. So today, for example, I read about the UAE's new legislation, so United Arab Emirates. They're going to have a very harsh legislation for Bitcoin, for self custody, for example, where self custody is maybe I need to, I don't want to say the wrong thing, but it could be deemed as illegal, and you have to purchase Bitcoin through licensed players that all have to abide with the KYC AML policies. So so it could go in that direction in many places. I also have seen today that China once again wants to remind the world that it's banning Bitcoin still, and that it's now going to start looking deeper into stablecoins and maybe banning them as well. So the battle is on, and it's a currency war. And the battle to the new world order goes through the new financial order, new monetary order. And it's a very blatant war that is starting, it started already in the beginning of the decade, but it's going to go on until at least the end of the decade, until things will settle down. And I call it the musical chairs because the way I see it is that the central bankers and the states are like those kids playing musical chairs, all walking around very with a lot of tension around the chairs. And the moment someone does, clap, like Trump does tariffs, everyone tries to sit down and they fall and they crash and it's a chaos. And so that's what it looks like more or less right now, a game of musical chairs. And I believe that by the end of the decade, things will start slowing down and settling down a little bit, and there will be more clarity as to who's doing what. I forgot to mention, by the way, in the Bitcoin part, El Salvador, of course, that I think is a very key player in the world still. Doesn't matter, what happened with the IMF or the legal tender issue. I still believe that it is the leader in showing the way to other nations of how they can become friendly towards Bitcoin and what it creates, what kind of opportunities it creates in their jurisdiction. Other places are notable as well, places like Switzerland and Bhutan, and there are other places that we can mention. But basically the Bitcoin game is that you can see that the game theory is starting to play out. But I think it's going to be the hardest option for nations to implement. Because if you look at the trajectory of the IMF and the Bank of International Settlements and all the other global financial players, their pull is towards towards digital money that is permissioned, that is not on the public blockchain like Bitcoin. They want a private blockchain, or at least public permissioned public blockchain, but it has to be permissions, which is KYC. So that's the pool. And then if you can implement your stable coins in your country to be on a public blockchain but permissioned, we'll say fine. If you can implement your CBDCs in that way, we'll say fine. If you want to play around with Bitcoin in a way that doesn't suit what the IMF and the BIS want, they will give you a very hard time. And they're talking about it. They're saying it. There's a great panel with from the IMF, a 1 hour panel that I will post soon on my Twitter and my blog, where they talk about the future of finance, and they basically show you what is allowed, what is not allowed, and what they will endorse and what they will not endorse. And they talk about Bitcoin. And they are very scared about it. They know exactly. And I think it's no coincidence. I'm finishing, like, this is it. That's more or less my presentation, but just it's segueing me now to this thought. I've been seeing the last few weeks a really tough crackdown on Bitcoin from many angles. Countries, but also banking institutions and central banks and figures, like financial figures around the world, all raising the fear and FUD levels. At the same time, you're seeing Bitcoin prices go down. I don't think it's a coincidence. I think it's an orchestrated attack that was designed to be pulled now, because they want to heavily influence the opinions of the masses about Bitcoin. They want to make people think that the only viable way for them to access Bitcoin is through the institutions, through the state. And they want to eliminate any free thought about self-custody and non-KYC, right? So I think the game is on, the battle is on, they're fighting us. This is it. This is the time that it's happening.
Yes, yes. Interesting
Yeah, but
what you
many
point.
many times before, but now it's happening again.
Yes, interesting what you point is really really interesting because yeah, you probably see some news that Thailand is friendly with Bitcoin, UAE is friendly with Bitcoin, but there are these black and white that okay, we are friendly with KYC
But
Bitcoin,
how
but if you
exactly? But how? That's the question. The nuance is
so
always the interesting thing.
yes, yes, and what do you see? Why do you see that the this crash on the Bitcoin price was orchestrated by the financial world, and how can this evolve in the next months or probably in the next years?
I have no idea. I'm not the right person to say how it can evolve, but I can tell you that I think it's no coincidence that Jack Mallers' account is being closed, and then Michael Saylor is being attacked by Jamie Dimon, and Larry Fink is whatever fudding, and it's all these things are no coincidence. And China and UAE, and they all say bad things about Bitcoin at the same time, and the IMF, and it cannot be a coincidence. If there's one thing that I learned over the past 5 years is that whenever you start seeing so many of the same incidents happening in so many different places around the world, it is no coincidence. There is a top-down, I call it, the memo has been sent. They all get the memo, right? All the players, all the countries, all the people that should get the memo, and they tell them to do something, just like they told them to start scaring people about the end of the world pandemic. right? Because now it's the time. I think it will unravel and we will know more and see more by the end of this year, by the end of 2025, and probably until Q1 and 2 of 2026, we will know things. Obviously, much smarter people than me and economists are talking about the gold price also being a signal that we need to pay attention to. And whenever gold starts spiking, which it has over the past year, Bitcoin is following suit quite quickly after. And Bitcoin is now starting to follow liquidity trends more than it is following the traditional cycles that it used to follow in the halving cycles before. So I think things are changing, and we need to be very conscious with the hand on the pulse and notice what is happening. I don't think it's also a good habit to know too much and to be too obsessed with every detail, because it doesn't matter in the bigger scheme of things and it's not going to help. So, as I said before, your mental and spiritual and psychological health is more important than knowing every little detail. Leave it to crazy people like me or others that are collecting all this data for you and presenting it to you in like one go. But you go to the beach and ground yourself and, go to nature and breathe and make sure your Bitcoin is in self custody and that you secure it well and that you decentralize your life. And don't be too worried about all these details, because in the end of the day, even if they are going to crack down on people's freedoms through CBDCs and other tools, if you have Bitcoin and you've been responsible and sensible about how you manage your economics and your finances, then you're on the right side. You're good. So don't worry too much. That's also not healthy, in my opinion.
Yes, yes, I agree. I agree with what you say. And how can we fight against that by having Bitcoin in self custody? How can the regular people, the people who love freedom like me, fight against these rules that are coming to the world? And by the way, I think that you are not a conspiracy theorist. I was called a conspiracy theorist when COVID started here in Hong Kong. All my friends were, oh, but what do you say that? Put a mask, put the vaccine, whatever. And I was, you're a crazy, you're a conspiracy. And now
Same,
many of them, they
same.
say, okay, you probably were right.
Right.
But
Yes.
but how
Yes.
can we fight against that and keep our
So our
freedoms?
best way of fighting is by educating people about what's right. When you look around and you see so much wrong and so much evil and so much bad and negative, then your best fight is to do good in the world. Your best fight is to shine the light on what is helping people. And I think instead of fighting the existing system, we have to take that energy and invest it into building new things and educating people about what's right and what are the right ways to live your life. What are sustainable ways to live your life, sustainable ways to hedge your finances, to take care of your family and friends, learn new things about health, about mental health as well. Don't be afraid to look inside and do some work on your past traumas and all that. We all carry that because that will help you grow and help you shed some of the weight off your shoulders so that you can be more more lightweight for the next battle that comes, because many of them are going to come. So I think the best way to fight is to educate and to put your energy on the moral and ethical and sustainable and good areas in our lives, and we have them. They exist.
Yes, and what is the best way to educate? Because sometimes when you talk, when you want to educate people or when you want to warn people about what's going on, they call you conspiracy theorist and a crazy. So you are trying to put the effort on saying education or telling about the CDBCs, telling about what's going on, and they call you crazy. How can we overcome this?
Well, Firstly, as I said, if you work on your mental health and spirituality, then you understand that all these attacks are coming to teach you something. They're coming to present themselves as another opportunity for you to grow. Because if you are being managed by what people say, I mean, if all your life is dictated by what people think about you and what they say about you, then you're living a very narrow kind of life and you are being limited. Even if you think you're free because you have Bitcoin, but in your life you don't say what you want to say because you're not feeling free to say it, then you're not free up here or in here. And so every criticism or every backlash that will come from the outside world to you as you try to educate people or do what you think is right is an opportunity for you to overcome some dialogues in your life. Now, there is a scale here, and I'm not calling people to risk themselves and to go out there and speak in a way that would put them in under risk, under real risk. Like, for example, if you're in China and you'd go and, you say certain things, you can be erased from uh, from wherever you are. So I'm not telling people to risk themselves. They should be responsible, but still they should find a way to communicate those areas and topics that they believe are important for people to learn about. Like, for example, on my podcast, I will talk about things related to climate change or geoengineering or health. Um, I will talk about many, like, digital IDs and whatever things that the institutions or the governments may not like us to talk about, depending on where we are in the world right now. But you have to find a way to do it, because if we stop talking, if we stop educating and stop sharing our beliefs, our views that are so important for people to see, to resonate with, and to also get inspiration from, then we are going to lose the battle. We're really going to lose. We need to continue speaking up, because speaking up creates holes in people's consciousness. And through those holes, light can come in. And so we need to continue speaking out. And yeah, we will trigger, just so you know, when you do that, I can share my experience. You trigger a lot of people. So some people will look at you and say, "Oh, she's like this, she's like that," and they'll be angry and they'll say bad things or mean things and call you names or whatever. It's okay. If you know you haven't done anything wrong, if you know that what you're doing is okay, then just keep going, because it's not about you, it's about them. You will be like a mirror to them. You are reflecting things to them that they don't want to admit about themselves, that it's confronting, it's too hard for them to see themselves when you speak. So they will project everything out on you. So that's a very common thing that can happen when you start speaking out, but it's a good exercise. Just learn to bring that compassion to people that are like that. You can mute them, you can block them, whatever, and keep going. And you can also take some time, be offended, because it's not nice. It's hard to accept it when someone calls you names or, defames you online. I had all of this stuff happen to me. Yeah, you can take your time to get offended and then heal from it and come back to the game stronger. So
Yes, and you think that there can be some point of no return with CBDCs and all the things where they can win, and we were forced to capitulate and lost our freedom to use Bitcoin. We need to go KYC. We cannot do the self custody. Do you think that might be this point?
so let's separate it to two areas. One is, can you wake up and find yourself living in a totalitarian country like Iran or China or whatever, or South Korea, North Korea, where you don't have rights and you're completely a slave to the country, like communist, whatever, dictatorial? Yes, it's possible. it is the trajectory in most of the countries in the West right now. They're just wrapping it with this fake facade of Western democracy, but it is way past the point where we can call this a democracy. And this, I think this is being shown to more and more people as time goes by. So that's one part. This is very possible. Depending on where you are in the world, you need to be alert and conscious enough to understand what trajectory your country is taking, and then guard yourself from that. Have a second plan if you think that things are going too far or too extreme. And the second thing is about your Bitcoin that you were asking. Can we find ourselves in a situation in which the only way we can access our Bitcoin is through institutionalized means? I think the answer is depending on where you are. Again, like the geography that you will choose to do it in. It's very possible in some places around the world that, yes, you will be under such regime. The most amazing thing about Bitcoin is that even if you ban it, regulate it to death, I don't know, punish people, put them in jail, do all these things, everything a state can do to exercise its violent power against its citizens in relationship to Bitcoin, you can still not stop Bitcoin. Some people in your state may still be able to perform peer-to-peer transactions between them, and you will not have any idea about it. And that is the mega kryptonite power of Bitcoin. So even in the darkest places, Bitcoin is being used in such a way in China, in North Korea, in Indonesia, in Nigeria, in you name it, in Lebanon, in Gaza, wherever you want. Bitcoin is being used in such a way. So that is its superpower. It's like light in the darkness. And if you take care of your place of residency, when shit hits the fan, and you take care of your Bitcoin properly, you can navigate and maneuver your little boat through this very turbulent time. And, if you're smart, you'll be able to do that. You'll be able to win. And we'll all meet up there on the mountain in El Salvador. I don't know where. On the Noah's Ark, right?
Yes, yes. But I think that Bitcoin is like we say that always life finds a way, like in Jurassic
Yeah.
Park, that you can, and the biggest Bitcoin is like the martial arts. Aikido. Aikido is the martial art where you use the power of your enemy against them, and the power of your enemy makes you stronger. And also, I train Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and mostly you use the power of your enemy to attack them. I think that Bitcoin becomes stronger when it's more attacked by the enemies, and that's something that we the Argentinians know. I don't know if when you were in Argentina you were told about our economy, and now you come in a time that the economy is more normal. But if you have come to Argentina in 2023, 2024, or 2022, you know that we have these caves where we were to buy and change US dollars, because if you change in the bank, you get a money. If you change in the cave, you get another one. So I think that the more Bitcoin is attacked, the stronger it becomes, and life always finds the way. That's the point.
I did see that in Argentina. People told me all these stories, and they also took me to the museum of the central bank. So that, and I interviewed them so that I could see how history is repeated in Argentina, and how people have found culturally ways to behave that will like not break the law, but create like alternative ways of living. And funnily enough, because everyone started to do it in Argentina, then the law or the state have started to accept this culture and this way of living. So if you go and you buy an apartment with cash in this private room in a bank with a lawyer, right, that will come and do the deal between the two parties, the lawyer will actually write probably a lower sum of the deal than the actual sale price of the house, and it will be okay. Like, everyone knows that that's happening and it's fine. So it's like things find a way. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what happened. As an Argentinian, we always were forced to that because of the inflation, because of the controls in the previous presidents in 2000, the president that ended in 2023. You had two different, not too many different values of the exchange rates of the US
Yeah.
dollar.
Yeah. The
So
blue
you have
and
the blue one, and you know that even in that time, they send the army to the places where changed the blue dollar to, because they were criminals, and
uh-huh.
even in that time they couldn't stop that.
They couldn't stop.
So, and as
But
you
good
said,
luck
you go to
trying, right? Good luck trying.
uh,
Good luck for the whole world to try and stop Bitcoin. Let's see what happens. Like, bring it on.
and I like to this vision that they give to Bitcoin, that is the honey badger, that gets attacked, but it always fight back. And no matter how big is the enemy, the honey badger goes and fights. I like I like this analogy. So, and talking about Bitcoin, how do you see the future of Bitcoin?
I mean, if Bitcoin didn't exist, then I don't think I would be so optimistic about life. So when I discovered Bitcoin, I was so relieved to know that there is a way for humanity to build itself again, hopefully in a more positive way than has happened for the past thousands of years, maybe. I don't know. I mean, I think it's the first time that we have a foundational component to life that is dictating a fair and honest um, system. And, almost all systems around us have been corrupted and are all derived from the the corrupt monetary system, which is fiat. And so for the first time, we have a chance to build something new, and we have seen spikes of it or reminders of it in history when gold standard existed, and not always, obviously, because a lot of different factors needed to align for the gold standard to really deliver prosperity. So it wasn't so obvious that everywhere that was on a gold standard had prosperity. No, more factors needed to be in place. But with Bitcoin, it's like that on steroids. It's like the potential that we have to build societies and economies that are fair and honest, with incentive structures that um, doesn't encourages wars and violence for extortion and manipulation of people, um, and obviously property. It's there now. So I think it's up to us to dedicate some of our life or part of our life to the preservation of this very important gift that we've been given. That's my view on it, and that's what I'm doing. I want to make sure that I participate in some way in preserving and contributing to the understanding of what kind of gift we have in our hands for building a much better humanity going forward, much better society going forward for my
Yes, and
son's
one of
future.
Yes, and one of the things that I have two positions that are too extreme. Uh, Either Bitcoin wins
I'm
or
not talking about the price because I'm not a good
no,
price.
no. It's like I don't when I ask. No, when I ask about this, I don't expect people talk about the price because
Okay.
price is secondary. So I was not expecting you say, no, Bitcoin is gonna be
Yeah.
150 in the next 3 months because nobody knows. Nobody knows. Like I attack a lot the people who talk about this because nobody knows. And I have two positions that either Bitcoin wins or either Bitcoin lose. If Bitcoin loses, I think that humanity is not going to be here for more than 100, 150 years. I think that we are going to go down and we are going to get extinct by ourselves. But if Bitcoin wins, that has the biggest probability, we are going to enter in a golden era that humanity is going to do interstellar travel. We are going to end poverty. We're going to be in a much better world. And the history is going to come here to study us as a reference of what was happening. So they will use us to our content as to understand what was happening probably in 115 200 years. So that is amazing.
Yeah, I agree with you that it's a historical point in time. It's a historical moment that we are in. And we have the possibility to be that case study for the future. And I think that's why I always go back and say that this is very spiritual. In my mind, like Bitcoin is a gift that has been given to us. And I don't care whether the NSA started it or the CIA or whatever, it doesn't matter. There is something about this entity that holds a lot of light and a lot of hope, and people just need to be aware of the level of consciousness that Bitcoin can put you in, and act on it, because it's a big gift, very big gift.
Excellent. And the last question is, if you had the chance to sit down with Satoshi Nakamoto, what would you ask or say to him, to her, or to them?
I would ask him, which planet is he from?
So great. It's a great question. It's a
Yeah,
great
I'll ask him
question.
whether he's human or like part human, part something else, or which planet, or what's going on here. That's what
It
I'd ask.
reminds me that this is a great question because nobody would. Everyone I ask, what would they ask to Satoshi? Nobody say that, and it reminds me one. Argentinians, we love football. We love Maradona, and he scored an amazing goal in Mexico '86. And the man who was doing the narration of the game said, "From which planet did you come from? That you are so it's so amazing what you are doing. That is from which planet uh, did you come from?" And I want to add the last another question because you visit my country, even though I don't live in Argentina. I'm a very proud Argentinian, and
Yeah.
I don't say we have the best country in the world, but we have an amazing country. What was
Amazing.
the thing that you like the most from
Oh,
Buenos Aires?
I think I love the spirit of the people. They are very, even though they went through so much shit in the last decades, they are so happy and loving. And I think there's something very light about the way they perceive life. They don't take life too seriously. They live very happy. So I really love the spirit of the people. That's the number one thing that I straight away felt. Everyone is very heartwarming and happy and lightheaded, and don't take life too seriously. Not too dramatic, you know what I mean? People tend to be very dramatic. It's like not dramatic at all in Buenos Aires or in Argentina. It's like very like, life is good, let's celebrate, it's all good.
Excellent, excellent, amazing. So, Efrat, thank you very much for your time. Anything else you want to add? And of course, how can people can contact you?
Sure. So people can follow me on X for my daily ranting, but I much prefer them following me on Nostr. So I'll give you one link to all of my different channels, and people can find everything there. I have a blog, which is like a newsletter, blog.efrat.blog. And I have a podcast called You're the Voice. So you're welcome to follow the podcast on YouTube, Spotify, X, everywhere.
Excellent. Again, thank you very much. Has been a pleasure talking to you, and I hope I meet you in any other conference around the world.
I hope to meet you too soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And thank you very much to everyone who is on the other side. If you like the episode, give us a like, subscribe to our channel, follow us on social media, because this is the best way to help us to orange pill the world. Share this episode with the people you love. Share this episode with the people you hate, because we must give the orange pill to 8 billion people around the world. See you in the next episode of our podcast. Stay humble, stack sats, and remember, we are all Satoshi. And that's all for today. If you like the episode, please give us a like, subscribe to our channel, follow us on social media. Our X account is the Bitcoin _. Our YouTube channel is the Libertarian BTC. Our YouTube channel in Spanish is Libertarian BTC ESP. Our Patreon, the Bitcoin Libertarian. Our Instagram, the Bitcoin Libertarian. That's all. You can go there and follow us in all our social media.